I'm about to share with you the Facebook advertising secrets, tips, and strategies that work really well in 2023. Everyone knows that Facebook and Instagram advertising is constantly changing, and we as advertisers need to adjust our approach in order to keep up with those changes and get the best possible results. So this video is designed to get you up to speed with the changes that we've made that are working really well right now and that will help you get the best results possible. So the first change that we've made to our Facebook ads approach is to switch a significant number of our clients from off Meta sales funnels to on Meta sales funnels. And I'll explain the difference and what that means. Let's use an example of a service-based business. Now, the traditional way of doing things, the off Meta sales funnel, would be to run an ad on Facebook and Instagram, get people to click on that ad, they then come through to a landing page, a website where they can inquire, become a lead, and then you can follow up, etc. That's an off Meta sales funnel because you're taking people off of the Meta apps like Facebook and Instagram. An on Meta sales funnel version of that would be instead to use an instant form. So you run an ad, people click on it, instead of them coming off the platform onto your website or your landing page, they're instead presented with a form within Facebook or Instagram where they can submit their information, become a lead, and then you can still go ahead and follow up, etc., etc. Now, there's a few reasons why we're doing this. Firstly is because this is what Meta wants us to do. If you have the new ODAX campaign objective menu and you create a leads campaign, you will see that instant forms is now the default option. So you can see that Meta doesn't accidentally have default options around things. They think about this very closely and they select the options that are going to lead people to do what they want them to do most, and that is keep people in app. They want us to use instant forms as opposed to sending people to a website, because then they're going to stay on Facebook and Instagram longer. It doesn't end that user session. They then may go on to interact with other advertisers, consume content, engage, etc., all things that Meta wants. And we can see this backed up not only by their default settings, but also by the costs. If you run identical lead campaigns, one that is sending people to your website, one that is keeping people in platform and using an instant form, you're likely to see that your CPMs, your cost per 1,000 impressions, basically what it costs you, is going to be less using the instant form option. That obviously also filters through, and we see a lower cost per lead often when we use instant forms versus when we send people to a website. Now, I've just used the service-based business example there, but you could have other types of businesses. So instead of sending people to, say, a type form or somewhere where they could live chat on your website, Meta would prefer it if you send people to WhatsApp, part of the Meta family of apps, or Messenger, also part of the Meta family of apps. They want you to stay within that ecosystem. So you can set either WhatsApp or Messenger as a destination when you're running ads. If you've got a Facebook shop, you could use that to, sell physical products and replicate an e-commerce setup that's within app as opposed to something that's external. And I think that's going to continue to become more and more important as we move on and as Meta build that out as a feature. One big advantage that you also get by using on Meta sales funnels is tracking. We know that since the iOS 14.5 update, it's been difficult. It's been difficult to get really accurate data once you send people off app onto your website, and you may not get the accurate number of conversions that you've generated, you may not get the right purchase value, all that sort of stuff. If you keep people on app within the Meta family of apps, you're going to get 100% accurate data because they can track everything that takes place within their app. So if you're generating leads, let's say via instant forms, that is going to be the correct number of leads. That is going to include the correct cost per lead, all the relevant information that you want. So that's helpful. The next change that we've made is different but related, and that's to switch to using more on Meta sources for retargeting audiences and lookalike audiences. So traditionally, when we're retargeting, we would be using things like website visitors or email lists, and those would be the people that we would want to put our ads in front of to get them to either purchase again or purchase for the first time, warm audiences that we want to activate. Now, what we're doing is we're switching more and more to on Meta sources. So this would be video viewers, people who have watched your videos on Facebook or Instagram, people who follow your Instagram account, people who've engaged with your Facebook page, people who've engaged with your ads before. Actions that people have taken within app, within the Meta family of apps, that we can track and that we can then use to retarget. There are a whole bunch of different options, and I've got videos around how to retarget and create custom audiences and all that stuff, so I'll include a link in the video description below so you can go and check that out if you want to. That has a really big advantage to using on Meta sources as opposed to off Meta sources. Firstly, again, is tracking. Because we can really accurately track the actions people take within the Meta apps, it means that when we create a retargeting audience, we know we're getting everyone that has watched that video or everyone that follows an Instagram account. Whereas if you're relying on the pixel to gather data based on people who visit your website, you're going to get most of the people that visit your website, but not all. You're going to miss out on that. It's also a lot easier for people to take those actions, like watch a video on Facebook or interact with an ad of yours on Instagram. So those retargeting audiences are much larger than, say, an email list, which is quite a big ask for someone to go through to your website, sign up to your email list, etc., and use that. So the larger the retargeting audiences in general, the better the results are going to be. This is a way to get larger retargeting audiences. That is also why we're doing it with lookalike audiences. So when you create a lookalike audience, you first need a source audience, could be website visitors, could also be Instagram followers. You can create a custom audience out of, say, your Instagram followers, and then create a lookalike audience based off of those people. It's a great cold audience targeting option. And if you want more information around lookalike audiences, what they are, how to create them, how they can be really valuable, I'll include another link in the video description below to a full tutorial guide that I strongly recommend you go through. So those are two really big shifts. We're shifting both the sales funnel and a lot of our targeting, particularly retargeting and lookalikes, to on-meta sources. Now, it's really important that I say that we're not doing that in all cases. It's not like we're switching everyone over, and it's not like we're abandoning the older ways of doing things. Often we will use them in combination. But I think that a lot of advertisers are underusing the on-meta features. So they're underusing instant forms. They're underusing the meta sources for retargeting, like video viewers, Instagram followers, etc. You want to make sure you add those in. You might be pleasantly surprised with the results. The third change that we've made to our Facebook advertising approach is to really focus on Reels as an ad placement and how that factors into our ad creative production and when we're thinking about putting ads together. More and more user activity is taking place on Reels, and this is not just Instagram, we're also seeing this on Facebook as well. We know that obviously with the rise of TikTok, short form content became a lot more popular, and then apps like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, done it with Shorts as well, have sort of jumped on the bandwagon, and they are encouraging content creators to create this short form content because they know, based on what we've seen in TikTok, there is a lot of demand for it, and that's exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing more and more of Instagram users, Facebook users' time being spent on Reels as opposed to the other features and elements within the Facebook and Instagram apps. That means that as advertisers, we need to customize our ad creative and what we're putting together to fit that format. So whereas before maybe the primary focus was on the newsfeed and creating ads that look great in the newsfeed, perhaps that's shifting more and more towards how does our ad look on Reels? Is it consistent? Does it sort of fit with the other content that people were consuming in Reels? Now, of course, you can customize your ads and your ad creative for different placement options, something I'd recommend you do. It does require a bit of extra time and effort, but it's often well worth it. So it's not like you have to fully go for Reels and abandon the other placements. That's not what I recommended, but we are focusing a lot more on Reels. And there is a wild card here. It's looking more and more likely, and I've been talking about this for a while, that TikTok is going to be banned. It's already been banned in India, it's been banned on government phones in countries like the US and recently the UK. It looks like the US is getting pretty close to banning TikTok. If that does happen, we're going to see that TikTok's user base still want to consume that type of content. Where are they going to go? They're going to go primarily to Instagram and YouTube Shorts. That's where they're going to end up. So we want to position ourselves as advertisers in 2023 to take advantage of that change. If we all of a sudden see a huge influx of Instagram, and we don't know when it's going to happen, if it's going to happen at all, but if TikTok does get banned, we're going to see a huge influx of users into Instagram. They're going to spend a lot of time on Reels, and we want to be positioned to take advantage of that. The next change that I want to talk about is simplification. We found that simpler sales funnels are producing better and better results. And this is a trend that's been going on for a number of years, but really post the iOS 14 update and the difficulty with tracking, those multiple step sales funnels start to get really difficult. And if you have even a small percentage drop off at each step, you're missing out on a lot of people actually being able to see the eventual offer, product, service, whatever it is that you have. We've simplified sales funnels. We're using a lot of the direct offer strategy, and where we are using more complex sales funnels, we're simplifying the actions that people need to take. So instead of having someone, say, presented with ad A on day one, ad B on day two, ad C on day three, and they have to interact with each one in order to go through the sales funnel, we would create what's called an omnipresent content campaign instead, where you've got people within that audience and they're being shown ads sort of all the time. It's complex in its setup, it's complex in how it's delivered, but it's not complex in terms of the actions the user needs to take. They basically get shown all these ads, omnipresent, in a content style format so that it's easy for them to consume, and then when they're ready, they click through and take a very specific, simple action, like signing up to become a lead, potentially purchasing something. But the sales funnel for the user is very simple. And we're finding, as I said, not only post iOS 14 with tracking, but also it's just what users want to do. Their attention spans are going down. This is being talked about everywhere. They're wanting easy, quick actions. They're expecting things to be very easy and quick to do, whether that's purchase, whether it's become a lead, and these things do make a difference to results. So where possible, simplify down your sales funnel, the ask that you're making of your prospects, and you'll likely see better results. There's also now undoubtedly more advertiser competition than there used to be, which means as advertisers, we need to adjust some of the things we're doing with that in mind specifically. I'm gonna explain what we're doing to combat that. But before I do, just wanna quickly mention a free webinar I've created called 3 Killer Facebook Ad Strategies to Double or More Your Revenue. And in this webinar, I break down the strategies that I mentioned a minute ago, omnipresent content, how that works, how it's put together, direct to offer, and a third one that I haven't covered here. I'd strongly recommend you go out and check out this webinar. It's completely free. I think you'll find it really useful. If you don't have the right strategy in place, it doesn't matter what else you do with your Facebook and Instagram advertising, it is not going to work. Well worth going and watching that 40-minute webinar, completely free. You can find a link in the description below. Go ahead and check it out. So with more and more advertiser competition, we're finding that brand is becoming more and more important. And when it comes to brand and how that can impact your advertising efforts, there are basically 2 options. You can either leverage other people's brand to build yours and associate with yours, or you can use the platforms to build it yourself. Now, for most businesses, I would recommend you do both. Why would you not want to take advantage of both options? And I'll explain exactly how they work now. So how do you leverage other brands to provide benefit to your own? Well, the easiest way is to hire influencers. Now, you can hire influencers to shout out your product or service. You may have some success with that. It may be relatively limited. What we have found to be far, far more effective is you hire an influencer to produce your ad creative, whether it's imagery or video. Influencers are often very good themselves, or they have teams that are able to produce really nice looking creative. Now, you're going to have to pay more for this, but the big advantage of doing it that way is that you can run that ad again and again and again. It's not a simple shout out from an influencer on their social media platform. It's an asset that you can use again and again. Now, including the influencer in your ad creative is a scroll stopper. As people are moving through their feed or reels or whatever, they see someone they recognize that's very relevant to your industry pop up. They are far more likely to pay attention to that piece of content, which is your ad, and therefore they are far more likely to go ahead and purchase. Something that we've done with a number of brands. It can work incredibly well. It's a great way to leverage brand, because if you're advertising a similar product or service to tons of other people, lots of advertiser competition, if you've got the influencer involved, your campaign's going to do well. Now, it is really important that it's niche specific. Firstly, if you go too broad, person's probably going to be really expensive, and that's not going to be the best option for your business, but also you want it to be relevant to the product or service. If someone who is known as an expert or known as someone that's heavily involved in a specific industry is endorsing what you have to sell, that's an absolute game changer. And when it comes to building brand in order to help you stand out from the advertiser competition, the absolute best way to do that with Facebook and Instagram ads is to use what I call the omnipresent content strategy. Now, I've already mentioned it in this video, but I strongly recommend you check out this video here, which is a full breakdown, a full walkthrough of the omnipresent content strategy. It shows you exactly how to set up all the various ad sets, the campaign structure, the ad creative, what goes into it. It's a sales funnel structure that I love, that can really build brand over the time, that's worked wonders for my business. Strongly recommend you go ahead and check it out.